What is up? Need for Speed Racers. It is I, your wheelman, Alex Cornnut. We're here today with A-plus class meta drift cars, top 3 plus an honorable mention because I couldn't bring the Colorado again without giving you another option because that Colorado gets it done. But we'll start off with something special, something spicy. I have the cheese build Lamborghini in A-plus class. Now, as always, for the drifting, I default and ask my buddy, DeBuster, what is good. His channel's here on screen. Click the card if you haven't. Go and subscribe to this man right here because he's one of the homies, and he works really hard on the drifting for points, so you need to check him out. So I asked him, I was like, what's good? And he said that really, it's skill-based. A lot of cars are good. There's some bad ones, but there's a lot more good ones. So get your technique down, find what you're comfortable with, and then you can start scoring points with everybody else. So what I have for you here are a couple different options that are different handling characteristics, and then you guys kind of just go from what you think is best. And I've optimized these as far as I can get them, so that way you definitely know you're sliding with the most power. Let's dig into it. I got the Lamborghini Huracan Performante sitting in front of us today. It a cheese build by definition because it only goes 130, and it's the last of the cheese builds for A-plus class because after that, they're all like legit builds. The engine that we use is the second engine over. It is the 4.0 liter V8. I built all of them out on this car, and this is the one to go with because you can get the most horsepower and torque. For the parts, you are Sport Bronze induction, you are Elite Platinum ECU, Silver Pro fuel system, and then Sport Bronze exhaust. Cram in an Elite Platinum screw supercharger. That way you've got all the torque down low. We have extra points. The reason we have extra points is because as soon as you go and slap on a Silver Pro induction, you get to 132 mile an hour and then all the way deep into the S-Class. And so we are limited by that 130, and it gives you a lot of other things you can do. So we slap on an Elite Platinum bottle of nitrous. Not that you really need it, but hey, why not? You do run Elite Platinum road suspension. This is where I differ from DeBuster. He's got his set up with Elite Platinum off-road suspension. I think a case could be made for all 3 suspension types. If you are drifting and you're on the road the entire time, I think road suspension is going to give you the most control, but as soon as you hit the dirt, you're going to lose a lot of momentum. If you find you're kind of sliding offline, you're getting out in the boonies a little bit, off-road suspension makes a ton of sense because it gives you a lot more variable lines you can take. And then if you're kind of doing a little bit of both, maybe just regular suspension. So based on your skill set, maybe based on what tracks you're drifting the most, pick the suspension type that sits right for you. Okay, and then we have more points, so it's Elite Platinum brakes, Elite Platinum Pro drift tires, Elite Platinum clutch, because once again we had extra points, and then you are going to put in the Sport Bronze 5-speed transmission. All the other transmissions take us to S or into S-plus class. You are running an Elite Platinum differential, or not. You don't need it in Drift Pro, but I always end up starting with that and kind of messing with stuff before I get to the final build. And then auxiliaries drift, near miss, drift, jump, kind of whatever works for you. I think near miss is probably going to be the second auxiliary I would go with for the Drift Pro, so that way if you do happen to catch a near miss on a car that's parked, get a little more nitrous. Not that you really need it because this gets plenty. Handling, slide the slider nowhere because you can't. Steering sensitivity, you do you, Pikachu. I usually run 2 clicks high. You might go 2 clicks low. Downforce all the way low or all the way high. I find that when I'm drifting, and I'm not very good, I like it low. The car just feels a little more floaty. If it's all the way high, it feels a little more planted, and I can rotate the car a little faster. So it kind of depends on what your style is. I would recommend playing with that to see what works best for you once the rest of the setup is dialed. Gas or brake tap, that's what I'd recommend for drifting for pro. For points, top speed 130, yeah. 887 on your horsepower, 849 on your torque. This thing is screaming with power, and it's all-wheel drive, so it's going to carry you around the track pretty sturdy. All right, let's get to the next build. Second car in our lineup is the Mustang Dark Horse. It would be an honorable mention if you would, but my understanding, according to what DeBuster was telling me, is this car holds a line different than some of the other ones, and it doesn't lose its combo chain. So it's got some advantages, and I definitely want to bring it to you. Now, the build that I've got here is using road suspension, so I've got the most power I can cram into it with that suspension type. If you were to throw some off-road suspension in it, you could put a little more power, but I think that this is what I would use as a preference. Like I say, I don't drift very well, you guys. It's not a skill set I spend a ton of time doing, so I set it up with the most power that I can, throw on the tires, and go. Yeah, it's optimized. It might not be the very best for drifting, but I know I've got the most power, baby. So let's go. Engine that we're using in the Dark Horse is the 4.7 liter V8 basic iron 200 brake horsepower. When we start, it is the second engine over. For the parts, you are going to go iron basic induction, elite platinum ECU, super gold fuel system, and silver pro exhaust. Slap in that elite platinum screw supercharger. I could probably play with this values a little bit and maybe get a little more horsepower, but I know for drift you want the torque, and the screw gives it to you down low immediately it punches, so that's why we have it in there. It is not a cheese build, so we are using Sport Bronze Nitrous, Elite Platinum road suspension, Silver Pro brakes, and then of course Elite Platinum Pro drift tires, Silver Pro clutch, and then you are running the Sport Bronze 5-speed transmission. Differential does not matter because you're running the Pro drift tires. I have $1 billion, so I always put it in there. Auxiliaries, near miss, and drift. Once again, going to be my recommendations for pro drifting. Handling, slide the slider nowhere because we can't. Steering sensitivity, I'm 2 clicks high. Downforce, all the way high. You have those 2 clicks, and then, it's those 3 clicks, excuse me. Everything else is S270 or above, so pick from the last 3 spots. All the way high, probably going to be where I'm at. Drift entry, brake tap, gas tap, whatever you feel is good for you. Top speed, 161. Doesn't really matter because we're sideways the entire time. 842 on your horsepower and 859 on your torque. Plenty of power to get it around. Like I say, this car's got a kind of special in handling characteristics. If you don't have it, don't sweat it. If you do have it, try it, because I think that you'll find it's a lot different than some of the other cars in the game, especially compared to the Lambo we just looked at. Alright, let me show you the Colorado build for the A+ class. Alright, Chevy Colorado in A+ class. There's a few different options for both transmissions with this build, and just kind of different ways you can set it up, so stick with me, I'm going to show them to you. When it came down to the engine selection, there was 2 that I kind of came to. It's either the 4.9 liter flat 12, 385 brake horsepower when we start, but when you select that engine, you are locked into one transmission type. With the Viper engine, you have all 3 different transmissions to pick from, so you can kind of pick the gear ratios that are going to work best for you, especially if you're picking specific tracks that you're going after points for, because those shifts where you're shifting at, that does matter. Also, when I started getting down to it, I used that V10 in the last video in A class, so I think a lot of you guys might already have the vehicle and you might already have bought that engine, so I don't want to recommend a different engine and have you guys spend a whole ton of money again if you don't need to. So between the 2 engines, that's got a little more horsepower, a little less torque. This has got more torque and a little less horsepower, so overall it's pretty good. You got more than enough to get the wheels burnt off it, so you'll be fine. Alright, for the parts, it is Elite Platinum Induction, Silver Pro ECU, fuel system, and exhaust, and then you're going to go with a Super Gold Roots supercharger. You can put the screw in if you go to off-road suspension. You can cram a little bit more horsepower in there, but what I've given you is the default baseline for the best suspension type. Stock nitrous, don't worry about it. We are using Elite Platinum road suspension, but same kind of deal, you guys. If you find that you're going off the track, you might cram in some off-road suspension, throw in different forced induction, add a little more horsepower, or you could go there, kind of do the same thing. But in this case, I've given you the most horsepower for that suspension. You can add more if you change it. Stock brakes, Pro drift tires as we do, Silver Pro clutch. Another thing you can change, if you change your suspension type, you can change your clutch as well if you're really wanting more fast shifts. Here's the thing with the transmissions, you guys. You can pick any of the 3. You want to do Silver Pro and have 6 speeds, you can do that. If you want a little bit more shifting action, you can do the 8 speed or split the difference, get the 7. More gears, more better. That's what we say, right? So it's really up to you. I probably would go with the 6 speed myself, but I do want you to see that you can put the Elite Platinum 8 speed in there if you want. So pick the transmission type that is going to work best for your application. If you're running automatic, probably going to want to get the 6 speed and just forget about it. All right, differential doesn't matter. And then nitrous drift, nitrous near miss, that's going to be your pro setups. For the handling, all you do is run the downforce all the way high. That's going to be 269 for both the 6 and the 7. And then if you get the 8 speed, you can back it off 1 and go there. And that's a 269. So basically, as long as you're running the downforce all the way high, all 3 of the transmission types will work for you. Drift entry, brake tap, gas tap, do you, Pikachu. Colorado ZR2, 176 for the top speed. You'll never get there when you're sideways. 831 for the horsepower, 769. Nice for your torque. All right, let me show you the last car in the lineup. The M3 Competition Touring is the last car in the lineup. I'm going to give you guys options, which means I guarantee 2/3 of you guys are going to F this up. You're going to be in my comments telling me that I'm a bad builder and the build doesn't work anymore, and the video is going to be 4.5 minutes old when you tell me that, even though I just built it on screen today, this morning for you. Because you guys can't be bothered to follow instructions. It's summertime. Why would we follow instructions? We're too busy getting high, drinking Mountain Dew, and playing video games. All right, let's go, dudes. So the engine that we're using is the 8.4 liter V10. That is a great engine for drifting, and out of all the options, it gives us the most horsepower and the torque. That one gives us a little more torque, but it's way less horsepower. It's not a good trade-off, so we're going with the Viper engine, boys. For the parts, it's Elite Platinum for the first 4. Basically, max those out. There's no way to do a higher aspiration and still keep the same torque and everything happy, so you just run it naturally aspirated. Now we get into options. Here we go. This is where somebody's gonna mess this up and they'll be mad at me in my comments. Fight me. All right, so nitrous basic. Here's the deal. You have 2 different suspension options you can run if you run this clutch. You can run regular suspension or off-road suspension. If you equip the road suspension, you need to take your clutch down to gold. Right now we have an Elite Platinum clutch in it. Better clutch, a little faster shifts, kind of up to you. With the way the points were shaking down, I wanted the clutch instead of the suspension. So you guys make the trade-off. If you run super gold suspension, you can go and you can get Elite Platinum road suspension. Excuse me, super gold clutch, Elite Platinum road suspension. That's your trade. But if you want to run either off-road or regular, you get to tier up your clutch and get the better one. Obviously, we are running Elite Platinum Pro Drift tires, and the transmission is the 6-speed. There's no room for anything else, takes it out of the class, so Silver Pro. Differential does not matter, and then auxiliaries, drift, grip, drift, near miss, drift, jump, doesn't matter. Make sure you've got drift so you have nitrous. Handling, slide the slider nowhere, steering sensitivity, you do you, downforce, pretty much anywhere in there. You've got like the last 5 clicks to play with. Basically 1 click to the right of center and then anywhere else you want. I think better clutch, regular suspension felt the best to me, but it is a feel thing. It's a comfort thing. When you are drifting, having a car that gets it done is enough. You don't have to have the best car because technique far outweighs the car selection. Like, your car is 10% of the deal. The rest of it is just your ability. So just practice, practice, practice. Check out DeBuster. He's got the moves. He'll show you the lines. He's good at what he does. He also streams too, so go like follow him on Twitch. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. You have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Like the video. Bye-bye.